This is Morten from Inkish. We are still with Highcon here in Israel. As you know, Highcon is a company that produces technology for laser die cutting and also digital crease lines specifically for the packaging segment on both corrugated and folding carton. I think it was a little bit of a surprise a couple of years ago when Alon Bar-Shany, former GM of Indigo here in Israel, stepped down, and then he became a chairman of the board for Highcon. So Alon, good to see you.
Thanks for coming to visit us in Israel at this difficult time. Much appreciated.
Difficult times. One thing is, of course, the situation, the political situation, the war situation here. But if you look at your life and all the work you have done, you have been so instrumental in the digital transformation. So I think there's been a lot of ups, but have you also sometimes been fighting a little bit against the tires?
Yeah, I think life is, when things are good, it's easy. When you get older, you realize that there are ups and downs, and you should never give up. It's true when you try to build a country. It's true when you try to build a business. And the tough times teach you a lot. And I think part of your role as you get older is to share this experience. Some people call it wisdom, and try to maintain the optimism and this never give up spirit. So it's true for Israel. It's true for the print industry. It's true for Highcon, other companies, etc.
I don't know if you've seen that, but I do a daily Drupa update on LinkedIn, and it's kind of funny because I wrote about you the other day, because sometimes people don't realize how much Israel has been the leader, and you and Benny Landa and other people have been so much leaders of the digital revolution when it comes to print. And I guess that you know more than anybody else how important Indigo has become both for HB and for customers around the globe. Now we're with Highcon. That seems that one of the missing links in the digital transformation is the finishing part of it.
I agree. I mean, when Efi Arazi, Benny started the Israeli graphic arts revolution, they were focused on pre-press and on printing. And there was so much to change and so much education, and the world was totally different. At that time, finishing was an afterthought. And I think fast forward a few decades, the print industry has transformed. The production methods are less important now. It's just the fact that everything is fast and everything is on demand, and people demand amazing quality with endless variety. And I think finishing or post-print, it's not just finishing, it can be embellishment, etc., has to evolve, because otherwise you have 80% of the capability, but the last 20% is stuck. If you had to add the fact that the world has moved to a lack of people, skilled people, and a much bigger focus on sustainability. Some people just talk about it and they don't do so much, but some people actually really care and do something about it. I think the last frontier of completing the end-to-end is the digital converting, digital finishing, whatever you want to call it.
But it's funny when you say that, because I was also thinking that when I look back at my time when I was working in printing companies, it seemed that, as you say, with EFRA and the EFI and how they turned the fiery and digital printing and all these things into, let's say, mainstream today, it also changed the fact that there are more people on the printing side in the printing company. But I think today the labor is concentrated on the finishing part, right? And that is maybe even more a reason.
That's so true. When I was at Indigo, I spent a big part of my time visiting customers, and I would always send reports daily on what I met, etc. And I always remember telling the team, it's for me, it's mind-boggling how an operation that had 3 Indigos, maybe they still had offset presses, it was like one person operating a few presses and pretty empty and automated. Then you walk to the finishing, immense area, dozens of units, some of them like literally 40 years old. You had these 60-year-old people that were the masters in setup, etc. And then you got to I'm waiting for the dies and we'll get here in 3 days, and with the hammers and everything. At that time, we were so focused on the printing side, we tried to partner with leading companies, and AB Graphics on the label side, and Horizon on the commercial print, book publishing, etc. They did amazing work. Not necessarily all digital,
but
it was complementary and it met the needs of the customers. So today I appreciate it even more, but it's definitely a big issue.
One of the things I spoke to Simon about when I interviewed him was also that the market is changing because of the megatrends, personalization, shorter print runs, all the things that you have also been talking about for many, many years, right? A question I always ask when it comes to inkjet, I always say to the vendors saying that is now the time for changing from offset to inkjet. I mean, I could take the question and follow up is, if you look at digital finishing like what Highcon is doing, is now the time to really take a serious look into this segment as well?
Look, when you look back suddenly 10 years, you say, wow, when did this happen? It seems very quick. The reality is transformations take a lot of time. And I think by now, pretty much everybody in the industry is saying that there'll be a hybrid model of digital, non-digital, different techniques. We can go into this argument of toner versus indigo versus inkjet. Every technology has to find its niche or its mainstream. It's very hard to cover everything. I think what Highcon is trying to do is to complement the digital capabilities in general and the big bottlenecks on the finishing side by side with the conventional ways of finishing. And some of it will just replace because it's more efficient, more sustainable, but some will enable new applications, just like indigo and digital did, which we didn't think about when we started in the 90s. It was more, we can do things cheaper, faster. We didn't think about album printing, about security printing, et cetera, et cetera.
The very first interview I did with you in Gothenburg was basically, you said we never thought of the indigo as capable of printing balloons, and I always thought it was a great anecdote.
I remember that interview, and I was in Gothenburg last summer for the first time on holiday. So I always think I went into these trade shows, and a day and a half, 2 days later, I was out of there. I never saw what a beautiful, amazing city and area it is.
Oh yeah, Gothenburg
is
really fantastic. Alon, you're a member of the board here at Highcon. The knowledge you have and experience you have, what do you bring to the table in a company like Highcon?
Look, first of all, we have an amazing board because boards could be experts in finance or other industries. In our case, we have a great mix of people like Landa, who needs no introduction, Adina, who managed Skodix and really one of the founders of 3D printing, but we also have people from other industries. So of course, when we talk about Drupa and portfolio, I bring my professional experience, even though Simon and Shlomo know as much as needed about this. I think when you're on the board, you have a different perspective. So you can sort of sometimes challenge things, bring different perspective, open up your network, and every company is a little bit different. Highcon is publicly traded, so you have a lot of fiduciary obligations. You have financial statements, and we've gone through a tough period, right? We were losing money, and we were burning a lot of cash, so there's a financial aspect, and I go back to my days as CFO of Indigo, and we almost went bankrupt a few times. You can't get panicky about that, but you need to relate to the financial part, and I think maybe more than anything else to the strategic elements, because you can't succeed by doing everything by yourself. You have to partner. You have to build the network of distributors, strategic customers, and one of the things which I think Highcon really has done extremely well is build the trust of the customers. When you have a customer base that really wants you to succeed, it's a huge asset. So that started, quite a while ago, and I think all of us today, the board and the management, really believes that putting customers first is critical. It sounds like a slogan. Many companies say that. Few actually do that, and you have to ask the customers what they think, not the management. So I think in Highcon we have some good assets, and hopefully, with Drupa around the corner and all the innovations that we're showing, and with two industries that are all in all doing well or okay, folding cartons, corrugated, displays, the future will be successful.
So you mentioned the struggles that Highcon is getting out of, because you're still in it, and you got the investors that you were seeking, which is perfect, of course. I was just thinking when you sat at the board meetings and discussing the plans of how to get on with this. One of the things was, of course, to sizing the company more to the newer reality. But at the same time, you still continued also developing, with fewer resources, but you continue, for example, also the Vulcan project. Right. And I was just thinking that sometimes I guess that sitting in a board meeting where you can see that you burn money and you at the same time know that you need to develop things, that balance must sometimes be a little bit of a trick.
Absolutely. And the easy and the trivial answer is let's cut, and then go back to R&D. But you have to find the right balance in our case, because when you have a product where customers are so excited that they're giving you orders and down payments, it gives you a lot of confidence, so you should be able to take more risk. And at the end, I think a company has a responsibility to the shareholders, to the employees, to the suppliers, but the primary responsibility is for customers. So downsizing the company to a level where there's hardly any future would be a huge miss. It's better to never give up, to try. Of course, we had to cut back significantly because 2022 was a relatively good year, and 23 was very tough for all the industry, I think, not just for us. And we don't live with a backlog of 18 months that we just produce. So we had to make some tough decisions. I don't think they've hurt the strategic capabilities, and I think we're getting to Drupa in a good place. If we would have come to Drupa and couldn't have shown the Vulcan and talked about it and said, we have something, but we'll show you in 2 years, it would have been very different. So I think we struck a reasonable balance, and hopefully, again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We'll see. But we're getting very close to Drupa, so we're all excited.
Last question here. I was just thinking that working in a company, I would almost say ground up from Indigo to where Indigo is when you left it. It must still be a very different life that you have today now with a lot of different companies and startups. And I think it must be exciting, but it must also be different, right?
It's very different. It's less difficult, at least in the last few years at Indigo, because the growth is fun, but the corporate overhead and the political challenges you face are never fun. And I think, in life, I'm very proud of the period at Indigo. Also, I think we had an amazing team, amazing customers. I've learned a hell of a lot. We talked, maybe 3-4 years ago. I knew very little about startups, funding, managing boards, investors. I knew nothing about alternative meats or textile or other things. I'm learning, and so I look back with pride, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing today. And I hope, that the companies I'm working with will succeed. It's never guaranteed, but you do the best you can, and that's all you can do.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thanks a lot.